Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a discussion on heat related illnesses which are very common in summers. So first of all, what all are the entities included in heat related illness? So these can basically be divided into two types: minor heat emergency syndromes and major heat emergency syndrome. So the minor syndromes include heat edema, prickly heat, heat syncope, and hyperventilation tetany. On the other hand, major syndromes include heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Now, out of all of these, heat stroke is the most dangerous one among the spectrum. Before going into the details, let's see how is heat stroke different from fever. Now, fever, which is a common sign during any illness, it has normal thermoregulation. On the other hand, in heat stroke, there is loss of thermoregulation due to which body temperature reaches more than 41 to 43 degrees centigrade, leading to multi-organ dysfunction. So the characteristic feature of heat stroke is lack of thermoregulation. Going forward into the lecture, we'll now see what are the mechanisms in our body to dissipate body heat. Firstly, the heat load in our body arises from metabolic heat production as well as environmental heat absorption. Now, both of these mechanisms are balanced by a variety of heat dissipation mechanisms. Now, these dissipation mechanisms and pathways are orchestrated by a central thermostat which is present in the preoptic nucleus of anterior hypothalamus. Now, this central thermostat sends efferent signals via autonomic nervous system pathways, which leads to cutaneous vasodilation, diaphoresis, and finally heat loss from the body. Now, the four mechanisms of heat loss from the body include evaporation, which is the most efficient out of all of the four. Then second one is radiation of infrared electromagnetic waves. Then conduction, that is direct transfer of heat to a cooler object. And finally convection, which is loss of heat to air currents. Now it is very surprising that skin blood flow can increase 25 to 30 times over the basal rate to facilitate heat loss. Now, similar to acclimatization seen with high altitude, people also get acclimatized to heat. So, what are its mechanisms? Firstly, after several weeks of exposure to hot environment, these mechanisms will activate. What happens is thermoregulation set point is altered. This will alter the onset, volume as well as content of the diaphoresis, that is sweating. So basically the threshold for sweating initiation lowers down, therefore sweating occurs early, but the salt concentration of the sweat lowers down. So there is profuse sweating with a low salt content. There is plasma volume expansion and decrease in heart rate with increase in stroke volume. So all of these mechanisms are related to acclimatization to heat, and these reverses rapidly as the individual leaves the hot environment. Again, going forward in the lecture, who are the high risk individuals who can develop heat related illness? So the laborers, military personnel, and athletes who exercise strenuously in the heat, very young, very old population, and especially teenagers, because these teenagers have poor judgment while exercising in high humidity and heat. Other risk factors include obesity, dehydration, and lack of acclimatization to the hot environment. Now, there are certain drugs which if a person is previously taking can increase the risk of heat related illness. So these include anticholinergics, which will impair the sweating mechanism. These will impair the sweating mechanism and also blunt the normal cardiovascular response to heat. Phenothiazines and heterocyclic antidepressants also have anticholinergic properties. Calcium channel blockers as well as beta blockers inhibit sweating by decreasing the peripheral blood flow. And finally, toxic ingestion of certain drugs like amphetamines and cocaine can increase the risk of developing heat related illness. Now, before suspecting a heat related illness, careful consideration of differential diagnosis is very important in evaluation of the patient. Now, differential diagnosis will basically include the conditions which also have raised body temperature. Now, these include malignant hyperthermia, which is usually seen after general anesthesia, neuroleptic malignant syndrome, which is triggered by some antipsychotic medications, including selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, certain infections which are associated with high body temperature like cerebral abscess, encephalitis, malaria, especially cerebral malaria, as well as meningitis. Endocrine disorders include diabetic ketoacidosis, pheochromocytoma, thyroid storm, and certain CNS illnesses like cerebellar injury, hemorrhage, status epilepticus. So all these conditions mimic very closely to heat related illness, especially heat stroke, and should be differentiated very cautiously. Now we will have a discussion of minor heat related syndromes. In the beginning of the lecture, we considered 4 entities in minor heat related syndromes, which were heat edema, prickly heat, heat syncope, and hyperventilation tetany. So we will discuss in brief about each entity, starting with heat edema. So this is characterized by mild swelling of hands, feet, and ankles during first few days of significant heat exposure. Now the principal mechanism of development of heat edema is there is cutaneous vasodilation, pooling of interstitial fluid due to vasodilation. Also there is increased ADH as well as aldosterone secretion, which leads to peripheral edema. Treatment is just simple leg elevation and use of compression stockings, and it is important to note that diuretics are not to be used in these patients because these will in fact predispose to volume depletion and development of more serious heat related illnesses. So this has to be kept in mind. Now the second one is a commonly seen entity during the summers, which is known as prickly heat, also known as miliaria rubra. So basically it is a maculopapular pruritic erythematous rash. What is the mechanism? There is blockage of sweat pores by the debris, which leads to inflammation of sweat ducts. These sweat ducts dilate, finally rupture to form vesicles. For treatment, we can use antihistaminics, chlorhexidine cream for local application, and 1% salicylic acid. How to prevent? Always wear breathable fabric in the summer seasons and be in suitable environment most of the times. Avoid hot and humid environment. This should be avoided. Now what is heat syncope? It is also known as exercise associated collapse. So basically it follows endurance exercises. What is the mechanism? Due to sweat loss there is volume depletion, decreased vasomotor tone, peripheral vasodilation also occurs. There will be decrease in venous return, postural hypotension, which leads to syncope due to decreased central nervous system blood supply. This condition can be treated easily with rehydration. Finally, we have hyperventilation tetany. Now, what happens in some individuals on exposure to heat, there is stimulation of hyperventilation. Now, as we all know, hyperventilation leads to respiratory alkalosis. There is shifting of calcium to the intracellular compartment, which leads to paresthesias and carpopedal spasm due to hypocalcemia. So these all are the minor heat related syndromes. Now we will discuss the various major heat related syndromes in detail. The first entity is heat cramps. These are also known as exercise associated muscle cramps. Now these are intermittent, painful, involuntary spasmodic contraction of skeletal muscles which occurs in an unacclimatized person who undergoes vigorous exertion in heat, especially hot and humid climate. Now there occurs relative sodium and potassium deficiency. So this is the mechanism behind heat cramps. So this can occur either due to insufficient sodium intake or replacing fluid loss with copious water or hypotonic solution. So body has enough of water, but there is relative sodium and potassium deficiency. So the deficiency of sodium potassium occurs intracellularly, leading to muscle cramps, and for treatment we just use electrolyte solutions or alternatively can give salt tablets since there is relative sodium deficiency and water is adequate. Now coming on to heat exhaustion. So first, a very important point is that thermoregulation and CNS functions are maintained in heat exhaustion. These are absolutely normal in contrast to heat stroke, in which thermoregulation and CNS functions will be abnormal, which we will be seeing in detail in few minutes. So the core body temperature in heat exhaustion is usually less than 105 degrees centigrade. Now this can be of two types. There can be water depletion heat exhaustion or salt depletion heat exhaustion. Now water depletion heat exhaustion mainly occurs in laborers, athletes and elderly individuals who are exerting themselves in hot climate without adequate fluid intake. On the other hand, salt depletion heat exhaustion occurs more slowly in unacclimatized person who is consuming large quantity of hypotonic solutions. Now when we consider the presentation, there is mild neurological, gastrointestinal and influenza like symptoms which include headache, vertigo, ataxia, malaise, dizziness, nausea and muscle cramps. Orthostatic hypotension and sinus tachycardia also develop frequently in heat exhaustion. When we see the lab parameters, there is mixed sodium and water depletion and raised levels of aminotransferases. The most important part of this lecture, that is heat stroke. So in heat stroke, there is total loss of thermoregulation. It is of two types. First one is classical or non-exertional heat stroke and second is exertional heat stroke. So in the classic type, it is commonly seen in summer heat waves. There is typically no sweating in the patient and the skin is hot and dry. It is of insidious onset and usually seen in elderly, debilitated individuals and those having some underlying disease. On the other hand, exertional heat stroke is seen in young, healthy laborers, athletes who are not acclimatized to heat. These exert themselves in very high ambient temperatures, and in exertional type, rhabdomyolysis is common, which can often lead to acute renal failure. When we consider the clinical features, the three cardinal signs of heat stroke include CNS dysfunction, hyperpyrexia, and hot and dry skin. So we will discuss individual system involvement. Firstly, in CNS, the patient is in confused state, have aggressive behavior, can be in delirious state, or can throw convulsions. In cardiovascular, there can be tachycardia or some other arrhythmias. Patient is tachypneic, can develop pulmonary edema, and finally, ARDS can develop. There is low levels of sodium, potassium, magnesium. Metabolic acidosis is common, and respiratory alkalosis can be seen due to tachypnea. Ischemic ulcerations of the gut mucosa are common due to decreased splanchnic blood flow. Acute renal failure due to rhabdomyolysis, tubular injury due to the myoglobin is common, and bleeding leading to anemia and activation of coagulation cascade can lead to disseminated intravascular coagulation. So basically, this heat stroke is a multi-organ dysfunction syndrome. In management, investigations which have to be sent are LFT, RFT, CPK, ABG has to be done, ECG, urine output monitoring, CBC with PTINR, and urine myoglobin. We have to first rule out the differential diagnosis which we have discussed. For first aid, we first move the patient to a cooler location, remove any tight clothing, immerse the patient in cool water, or if this is not possible, at least place wet sheets and cold compresses. Supportive measures include IV fluids and treatment of hyperkalemia if there is rhabdomyolysis and ECG changes. The things which have to be avoided include we have to not administer antipyretics. PCM has no role since the high temperature is due to heat and not due to fever. This can in turn increase the risk of liver injury. We have to not use any kind of alcohol rubs and not to give anything by mouth since the patient is in confused state can lead to aspiration pneumonitis. So this was all about this lecture, guys. I hope I have covered most of the points. You can check out these notes from the MediLectures app which is available on Play Store as well as iOS. Thank you so much.